So this former Democrat went on Piers Morgan and gave the best explanation in support of the Trump tariff policies. You're going to want to see this, and I'm going to also show you proof that Trump's tariffs are already working. Let's go. How's it going, everybody? David Medina here. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and follow me at David Medina PDX across all social media. You're going to want to see this clip. This is like the best clip I've seen all week. This former Democrat, I don't know what's her name, but Batia Ungar Sargon. She was on Piers Morgan with Cenk Unger. I can't pronounce words today. And then Carrie Lake, shut up, producer Vlad. Carrie Lake and some other girl, and she just went off about in support of Trump's tariffs and just explained it so well. You know, I wish a lot of these people would, just take macroeconomic classes. If you're in college, if you're a kid that's listening to this, you're in college. First of all, God bless you. You're already smarter for being part of this channel and listening to my videos. But take macroeconomics, man. Make sure you take it. If you should be a required class, but when you're taking it, pay attention, because you'll learn about tariffs. You'll learn about what tariffs do and why countries enact tariffs. It's just basically a tariff is just a tax on goods and on goods. Donald Trump, if anybody knows business and macroeconomics more, it's billionaire Donald Trump, who's literally been a successful businessman in America his whole adult life. Okay. And so Trump's tariffs, there's some tariff deniers that are out there right now. And like this reporter asked Senator Peter Welch, is President Trump not right to want to bring jobs and manufacturing back to America, though? Because that's what these tariffs are about. It's about bringing jobs and manufacturing and having America stop relying on countries that aren't our friends, like China, and countries that are ripping us off, like India and all these other places that we get our goods from, that we get our products from, that are just ripping us off, and we're forced to rely on them, and they can just increase tariffs on anything and raise prices. We want to be self-sustaining. Why doesn't the left understand that? It is good to be self-sustaining as a country, to not have to rely on other countries. It's good to be self-sustaining. That is what Trump is trying to do. It's it's part of his America First policies, that he wants America to be self-sustaining so we can have more jobs, invest in our own economy. And guess what? They'll say, well, you pay higher wages here and everything else is higher. Dude, sometimes these tariffs offset those costs. And sometimes it's better if these, and you'll see the left say these corporations and billionaires are getting tax breaks to have business here. But yeah, those tax breaks usually are good because they can use that money to invest more here in America and create more jobs. So people in America can stop having 4 jobs to afford a rent in an apartment. That's why we're here. That's why housing prices are up so high. That's why, because there's no competition here, and our infrastructure, our manufacture, our industrial complex here is crumbling, because we've allowed, previous administrations have allowed our manufacturers to go overseas and have allowed these jobs to go overseas. So this reporter asked Senator Peter Welch, is there something that he's right about? And this is what Peter Welch said.
Tariffs, will that do the same?
The tariffs are a catastrophe. There's no intellectual basis to them. They're totally arbitrary, and they're going to do immense damage to the economy.
Wait till what we show you.
Already are.
Wait until what we're going to show you here in just a second of what Trump's tariffs are already doing.
Isn't Trump not right to want to bring jobs and manufacturing back to America, though? Is there something there that he's right about?
He's totally wrong.
Yeah.
Tariffs will do that. Everybody wants jobs in America.
He's totally wrong. Tariffs will do that. We're going to stop that there, because we've heard enough of, because this is what all the Democrats on the left are saying. They just don't, and you have to understand, a lot of these people are saying this because they're just outright know they're lying and they don't want to give Trump any credit. But I feel like a lot of these Democrats are saying this because they really don't understand macroeconomics. They don't understand how tariffs work. They don't understand, they're just incompetent. And they really just go along with the talking points of their other Democrat people that are just flat out lying. Today is Donald Trump's Liberation Day, says Mark Kelly, senator out of Arizona. But what exactly is he liberating Americans from? Our savings and 401ks. His tariffs are going to be a giant tax on American families, raising the price of groceries, house, cars, and so much more. That may be true, but it's short term. Whenever you enact tariffs and go and have a trade war, like he did with China back in 2019 before they ushered in the coronavirus into our country, you're always going to have high price. That's the cost of going to war. But it's better long term. You notice none of these people are talking about long term for America, and it could even be in the next year or two. You already saw Canada yesterday saying that they were willing to lift the tariffs off. They already been in the need of Trump. His tariff policies are working because countries have been ripping off the United States for too long. And you know who suffers from them ripping us off? They will go, we will send our manufacturing over to China and buy a bunch of their goods. And meanwhile, they take our jobs. And meanwhile, they put other American businesses out of business, because why buy something for $400 here when you can get it for $200 buying it from China? That's what Trump wants to stop. Because if we gut our industrial, like our manufacturing and industrial complex here, if we completely gut that, you're going to be left with, where are all the jobs going to go? We're going to be left with no jobs, and everything's going to be overseas. We're going to be completely dependent on all these other countries. That's what Trump is trying to get us away from. This is the reason for the tariffs, man. And you're going to see there's already results. He's only been in office for 2 months, and watch these results that we show you. And look at this idiot with the curly hair. You know, this guy just makes me so mad, because I love him sometimes, and then times like this, I hate him. Where he's like, tariffs raises prices and they are bad for the economy. Yes, short term, because that's the cost of fixing a wrong that has been happening for too long from prior administrations. That is the cost when you put tariffs on. But guess what? Trump's already winning, and it was already being effective with China in 2019 before they ushered in the coronavirus. And I'm going to show you this video, this explanation here in just a second. But here is proof that literally Trump's tariff policies are already working. You have to understand, go look this stuff up. We are being ripped off by countries when it comes to tariffs, because yes, okay, so these countries are basically saying, we will make our stuff here, and you can buy our stuff, and we'll have low, the United States won't charge us to bring products into the country. But if you try to bring, if manufacturers from the United States try to sell in China and try to sell in India and all that kind of stuff, they tax us to hell. So does Canada. Their tariffs on American goods are super high. Why? Why is that not fair? Why is that those tariffs aren't fair when we don't even charge you guys a bunch to have your products sold here, when America is the biggest economy in the world? There's a problem with that. And again, you're like, well, why should we care? We should care because it hurts American businesses, and it causes us to send our manufacturing, our jobs overseas. And it makes us dependent on other countries. That's the theme here. I'm going to keep repeating it. Canada is willing to remove tariffs on the United States. We just shared that. And we shared this yesterday. Ontario Premier says we will drop all tariffs against the U.S. if President Trump is willing to do the same. You have Trump that said, just had a wonderful conversation with the new president of Mexico, Claudia. This was earlier, or late last year. She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. And now border crossings are down 94%. This is what happens. And this is where Trump used tariffs as a punishment for not helping us with the border. You can use tariffs. You can enact tariffs for so many reasons. This was the reason why he did it with Mexico, because Mexico has been allowing illegals to cross over our border, and fentanyl and cartel activity for too long. That's been hurting our country and killing our kids and killing our people. Look no further than right down the street in Portland, the fentanyl problem. That's coming from the southern border and some from the northern border. Decline in U.S. manufacturing and the rise of China. Only about 5% of the U.S. workforce are involved in manufacturing of durable goods. If Trump wants to make America great again, it's an uphill battle to reverse 45 years of deindustrialization. Do you understand what's going on here? Our industrial complex is literally crumbling to where there is no more like made in America. There's no more any of that. There's no more jobs. We're just sending it all overseas. Apple will, and so here you go. Trump's policy is already working. Apple will spend, this was announced yesterday, Apple will spend $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years. Largest ever capital spent in the U.S. in company history. $500 billion into the economy over the next 4 years. That's up 45% from 2021 announcement during the Biden term. 20,000 new jobs, new Houston AI server factory, new Detroit manufacturing academy, doubling R&D research and development fund to $10 billion. Trump teased this last week after CEO Tim Cook stopped by the Oval Office for a meeting on Thursday. Trump's already, look at this, breaking. This was last week. Toyota is now planning a significant investment to increase its operations in the United States, which will create thousands of auto jobs and avoid President Trump's tariffs. And guess what? It's also good for the consumer, because if a car is made in America, guess what? That savings of not having to pay the tariff from getting your car from Japan and South Korea and China or Germany, you won't have the tariff that will go into because a lot of what you're paying for in new cars today is the tariff that it took to get over here. And guess what? If cars are made in America, that's savings to us buying new cars. Gotta love economics, bro. Toyota in the U.S., by the numbers, 32 years manufacturing, 10 plants, 25 billion direct investment, 137,000 people working across the United States, 26.4 vehicles built and counting.
And that's before their new investment. This is like since 2018 that they've had this, so it's going to be even more. They're
amazing.
I think Ford is the only manufacturer bigger than them.
And then the CEO, this was last week as well, the CEO of Hyundai just announced a $21 billion manufacturing investment in the United States, making it their largest in American history. 2 months President Trump has been in. Oh, it's not working. It's not a good idea. He said it's a terrible idea. It's going to see the Democrats, like if one of the states in the United States wasn't getting water like California, and actually they are doing this in California, where California farmers are like, we don't have water. We need water. California has the biggest supply of water, and their governor and their Democrat leadership just pour it out into the ocean because of the environment, because of climate change, because of saving a little tiny fish. Meanwhile, their farmers are struggling and they get crap water in California. California should have the best quality water in the whole United States, but they don't. Go to Southern California, open up a tap water. You can't drink it. Okay. And they will literally say if President Trump, if he were to like order, which he kind of did after the LA fires, that, that these reservoirs be open, or that California allow the water, they'll say, oh, Trump's killing the fish. Meanwhile, like farmers are being prosperous and people are getting clean water in California, for a change. The Democrats will find a negative part of a story and they will run with it like it's the main story. That is literally, it's literally politics 101. They will say, so if Trump is in a trade war, that's going to have like little short-term effects, but long-term, it's really good for long-term for our country. They will focus just on those short-term effects. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly what curly-haired, freaking Cabbage Patch Kid Rand Paul is doing. It's unconstitutional to raise taxes, to have one man be able to raise taxes. Hey, idiot. Do you not know macroeconomics? Do you not know what he's doing? Do you not know the long-term plan here? Of course, it's going to raise prices in the short term, maybe even shorter term, maybe even for a couple months before other countries ease up. It's necessary because of the failed administrations in the past that have allowed other countries of the world to gut America's industrial complex. Okay. And the CEO of Hyundai had just officially announced $21 billion in manufacturing investment in the United States, making it their largest in American history. It will include a massive steel plant. We get a lot of steel from China in Louisiana that will create 1,300 jobs. With this, our U.S. vehicle production will exceed 1 million units per year. As President mentioned, our decision to invest in Savannah, Georgia, creating more than 8,500 American jobs. See, this isn't just about jobs, though. This is about the American economy as a whole. Now, if you know anything about economics, they have this thing called like the domino effect and the magic hand effect, which is the less red tape in an economy, the better. Obviously, you need regulations so people don't abuse it and take advantage, right? You've seen that with the Enron deal back in 2007 with the housing bubble. You saw that. You saw the lack of regulation and oversight crash the economy. I'm not talking about just letting it go wild, but there is a domino effect where when one thing in economics happens, it usually has a domino effect and affects other industries and other things like buying a home, buying a car, groceries, everything, right? Everything, the economy, all the stuff, all the industries within economy is tied together. So when you have steel being made and you have cars being made, you bring manufacturing back, that's going to trickle, domino effect. It's going to trickle, and it's going to make, it's going to make steel and building new homes and building new buildings and infrastructure. It's going to make all the cost of that go down. And when that cost goes down, project costs go down, and it's the domino effect, and other things start being cheaper. And so buying stuff like houses and everything become cheaper. Buying businesses, business projects become cheaper. And then that cost usually, they can invest in other things like wages, and this is what a lot of these people ask for $25 an hour minimum wage don't understand is like when the domino effect can be positive or negative. When you do a $25 minimum wage, the business has to make up for that somewhere. They're going to always just pass it on to the consumer and raise prices. So there's a cause and effect in economics. And so when you bringing steel here, we don't have to rely on China and all these other countries for steel anymore. We don't have to pay the tariffs. Costs are going to go down. When we drill and use our own oil reserves, the cost of your groceries and not just your gas is going to go down, but who do you think delivers your groceries? And these big semi trucks that deliver our groceries, and these all oil is used with everything, with airplanes and cargo and UPS and everything. When we use our own oil and we don't rely on Iran or the Middle East or Russia for oil, we don't have to pay the tax that they charge us for that. We use our own oil, our gas will go down, our groceries will go down, the domino effect. This is simple economics. This is what Democrats, this is what makes Trump such a great economic president, because he gets it. He gets economics, and he doesn't have special engineers or lobbyists, because I think a lot of these presidents do get this, but they have so much they have so much red lobbyists and special interests that are holding them down because, a lot of these like Wall Street. So let's go to that video. Let's end with this video real quick. And you got Hyundai excited to share a $21 billion investment. Check out how this girl explains it. She explains it way better than me. Just listen to this.
What I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs
this is a former Democrat, by the way. Former Democrat.
What I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs is that we all agree on the problem. We all agree that the deindustrialization of America led to the downward mobility of the American working class, deaths of despair, people working multiple jobs and not being able to afford the American dream. We all agree that it is deeply unfair for the American middle class to be bearing the burden of unfair tariffs from other countries. We all agree that it is great for the president to have leverage in order to demand reasonable things, like that countries stop allowing fentanyl to murder 100,000 Americans every year, and that Mexico do its part to police its own border. And yet when somebody has the courage to show up and say to Wall Street, screw you, I am waging war. I'm waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class. And you elites in Wall Street, you do what you need to do, because I'm not going to stop fighting for the American working class. Suddenly, everybody is sitting around going, oh no, the stock market. Yeah, the stock market looks like that because the rich are punishing Trump for siding with the neglected and humiliated American working class over them. We have already seen these tariffs work, Piers. The number of people crossing the southern border is at zero. Fentanyl is at record lows for the last 10 years. We have already seen $1.2 trillion in manufacturing invested in this country since January 21st. So they have already worked. Now, how long is Wall Street going to keep trying to punish this president for standing the American working class? I don't know, but I can tell you that the view from the street is people cannot believe that there is a president who is working for them, who is putting them first and telling Wall Street to go screw itself. Wall Street, which picked the Democrats for the last 3 election cycles in a row.
Loving it.
That's what the real story is here. American Compass did a survey of just GOP voters. We know now that the majority of Americans who make under $100,000 a year now vote for the Republican Party. So that was almost a means-tested poll, and they found that 77% of GOP voters, the working class, not the elites, said that when they were asked, they said they would be willing to pay higher prices if it meant bringing back manufacturing, because of course in their mind they are going to be the beneficiaries of those manufacturing jobs. About Canada, a lot of people are asking, why Canada? We love Canada. Canada are our friends. Why wage this, tariff war on Canada? And of course the answer is simple. Canada and Mexico are the back door to the American economy because we have this trade deal with them, the USMCA. So if there are no tariffs on China, if Canada and Mexico do not match our tariffs on China, China simply builds car manufacturing plants in Canada and in Mexico, which they have already done. And they use that in order to get tariff-free cars into the American market, which is exactly what President Trump is trying to get away from. So what he wants from them is for them to close that back door. And I just want to emphasize again, back in the 70s, when the majority of the GDP in America was in the middle class, right? That's kind of like the golden era that we look back to of when the economy was really healthy and working class people felt that they could afford a middle class life. 25% of our economy was in manufacturing. Today, the top 10% control over 60% of the GDP. And that is a direct result of the fact that only 10% of our economy is manufacturing. And the largest share, 20%, is in finance and real estate, which is, of course, how other countries we have artificially inflated the dollar, which makes the product of the American worker unaffordable. And so what the tariffs are doing are simply saying we are refusing the race to the bottom in wages. It is unfair to the American worker, which I think we have all basically agreed on at this point.
Right there, man. That was a beautiful explanation. Go watch that 1,000 times until you understand it, because and China will find cheat codes to get their cars into America without paying a tariff. Meanwhile, if we wanted to sell American goods in China, they either don't let us or they require us to be under a Chinese businessman, which basically just has them run our companies or our goods, or they tariff the hell out of us. And meanwhile, they're using cheat codes through Mexico and Canada to get their cars in here tariff free. Man, send this to somebody that doesn't understand macroeconomics. Maybe send this to like a leftist or whatever. Because once you understand and really just keep trying to study macroeconomics or just economics in general and how it works, how everything works. This is what socialists don't understand. People that are socialists, that are pushing for socialism, they don't understand economics. When you understand it, you get fired up about it. It could be a complex thing to grasp. I know it might be complex. Some of you might be confused, but the more you study it, and then once it clicks, like anything else that you study, I mean, if my idiot butt can get it, you can get it, right? I just spent a lot of time studying it, and honestly, I'm not a big economics expert. I just love hearing about economic stories, and I loved studying it. And so, once it clicks, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what is the left and the Democrats even talking about? Like, why would they not want this? That's why I've come to the conclusion that they just don't understand economics. They just don't. They don't. That's why they're like, oh, it's going to raise taxes. And they don't say anything about the long run. They don't say anything about the future of America. Meanwhile, Trump's policies are still working. And it's time for countries to stop ripping us off. And, it's why you're working 3 jobs and living in an apartment. It's why you can't afford to buy a house. It's why, a lot of this is that domino effect that is affecting our economy, that you either have to go into like a skilled position and make 6 figures just to make ends meet. Because you sure as heck can't work in a manufacturing plant these days, usually, and afford, you can't, you look at these Amazon drivers working like 16 hours a day, like 7 days a week just to pay rent.
Yeah, I think they said that the most recent number to afford the American dream is $145,000.
Insane.
Like that used to be like, not necessarily like out of the middle class, but in the upper middle class, maybe go into the high class. Now that's like the bottom of the middle class just to afford something. Anyways, I have a call. We have to jump off. I could be on here all day talking to y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and share this video, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Follow me at Dave Medina PDX. Appreciate you guys joining me.